Good morning, and welcome to today's edition of Talking with Tracey. It was going back in time.
That's a long time ago.
Very long time ago. But the actual name of this show, it will be Tennessee Valley This Morning, and we're so excited about today, aren't we, Tommy?
Yeah, we have two treasures sitting here beside us.
We do. And it's been a while since we've hosted. We've been on hiatus for a little bit, but it's good to be back, and particularly on this very special day when, like you said, we have two amazing individuals that have taken time out of their schedules to come to Cleveland, Tennessee.
A little ways from New York.
Yes, it is. And, these are world travelers.
They are. I think 30 days ago they were in Germany and Europe, so traveling the world. So we're about to hear an amazing story.
We are. My name is Tracey Wright. This is Tommy Wright, and we once a month have the wonderful privilege of hosting on Tennessee Valley This Morning. And Cleveland State is blessed to have, for the second time within a year's period, Miss Esther Bauer come back to our community to do a presentation, and she was kind enough to agree to come and be filmed for an interview.
That's right.
Miss Esther, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. And she has with her her very handsome, a wonderful life partner, Mr. Bill Engel. Engel, I'm sorry I messed that up. And we're just really excited to have both of you. Miss Esther is a Holocaust survivor, and Mr. Bill is a disabled World War II combat veteran. And we are in the presence of World War II. He has been knighted by the Queen of France, so it is Sir. Sir Bill.
That's right. We'll hear more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll have to learn more, because y'all didn't talk about that the last time he was on.
That was a secret that we wanted to tell you.
You waited till I was here.
That's right.
I appreciate it. Well, Miss Esther, it's a treat to have you back in our community.
Thank you.
And for me, it's my first time to meet you because I was away at a leadership.
You're a busy lady.
But I was determined this time I was going to be here and just block my calendar to make sure that I could. And it's wonderful to have you. Start by telling us a little bit about yourself for our viewers who might not be familiar with your story.
Well, I was born 89 years ago in Hamburg, Germany, and my youth was the regular youth of a German girl, and my father was the principal of the Jewish girls' school in Hamburg. My mother was a physician. And when I was 9 years old, Hitler came to power, and then things became progressively worse. I can't go into all details, but Jews have to give most of their money to the Nazis. Jewish children were not allowed to go to regular schools anymore. They had to go to Jewish schools. What do you call?
Swimming? Upper?
Civil servants couldn't work anymore. They had to look for other jobs if they could. And like I said, things became progressively worse. And then one day we got a notice, you're going to a concentration camp. First I have to go back. A Nazi doctor wanted our apartment, and we had to move to a so-called Jewish apartment, which had no hot water and no steam heat. It was a terrible place, but my mother knew how to heat a stove. I wouldn't have been able to, neither was my father. So anyway, we landed in the first camp called Theresienstadt or Terezin in Czech. And I was there for 2 years, and then I went voluntarily to Auschwitz, which is another story. And luckily, after 2 weeks in Auschwitz, I was sent back to Germany to build airplanes. And from there, I went to another camp, and we thought we would go back to Auschwitz, but Auschwitz had already been liberated, which we did not know. And finally, I was liberated by the Americans in Austria in 1945.
Wow. So what was life like before the Holocaust? Just as a as a German girl, what was life?
It was a normal life like everybody else's. You went to school, you came home in the afternoon for lunch. We did not get lunch in school, and then you did your homework, or I practiced my piano, and then we had dinner, and I went roller skating on the street. It was a nice even street, and I had 2 non-Jewish girlfriends who stuck with me all the time. I met one once during the war, and I said, Hilde, you are not allowed to talk to me. She says, if I want to talk to you, I talk to you. She didn't grasp that whole thing. And we've been friends ever since she died a few years ago. And it was a normal life like everybody else's. I had girlfriends, and I had friends from school and in the neighborhood, and we, like I said, it was just a normal life like a 10, 12-year-old does.
Now, what was the first sign you had that things were changing? And
yeah, unfortunately, my parents never told me anything. They wanted to shield me from all the horror. But I found out what was the first thing. I don't remember. I was only 9 years old when Hitler came to power. But then, like I said, slowly things developed. My girlfriends started to immigrate, the Jewish ones. They went either to England or America or Australia. Some even went to Holland, which in the end was terrible because they killed Jews there too. And then we couldn't go to concerts anymore. I couldn't go swimming anymore. I loved to go swimming. And like I said, every week or every month new laws came. And on the holiest day, Yom Kippur, of the Jewish religion, where you're not allowed to do anything, you cannot take a car, you cannot go by streetcar, you have to walk. And they announced in the synagogue that you have to go home now, get your radios, bring them to the police station. And my father, who was a very Orthodox man, said to my mother and me, we should go. He wouldn't do it. And so we went home, and that's the day where you cannot eat. And but my father said, you can eat something. And we went to the police station and brought our radio there, and that was the end of radios for Jews.
Communication.
Yeah. But I must say, and I always say this, that there were also good Germans. Not everybody was bad. We had a superintendent in the building who would ring our bell and say very loud, Heil Hitler, something wrong here again, so that the other people would hear. Then he closed the door, shook my father's hand, and they sat down to listen to Radio Luxembourg. That was when we still had the radio. And like I said, things became progressively worse. Then we were told in school, when you walk on the street, only 2 girls, not like 5 girls in a row like you do now, and be very quiet, and that they don't pay attention to you. And you learned to be, that you have to behave a little different from other children.
Now, did you know of or experience discrimination of any kind prior to the Holocaust?
Well, I personally did not. Like I said, my girlfriends always stuck with me. The neighbors first greeted us friendly, and then they didn't greet us anymore, but nobody ever accosted me. And then one day we had to wear the yellow star, and not only on the clothing, but also on the door to the apartment. And my baby nurse, who was not Jewish, came and really risked her life to go to a Jewish apartment, but she didn't care, and
wow.
she just came and brought us things like stockings. We couldn't buy in regular stores anymore. We had to go to a so-called Jewish store, and my father wouldn't eat, of course, the non-kosher meat. I think in, what year was it, 35 or 36, we could not get kosher meat anymore. And my father wouldn't eat it, but he allowed my mother and me to eat it. My mother had no idea about Judaism, even though her name was Levinson. She was a Red Cross nurse in World War I, and there were already soldiers who said they did not want to be taken care of by a Jewish nurse.
Wow.
So it goes all the way back.
So, go ahead.
For your father, I think, if I remember correctly, was taken to the concentration camp first?
No.
Okay.
No.
Help me with that
I
part.
wished he would have. It was the so-called Crystal Night, 9th of November 1938, when they burned all the synagogues. My father came to my bedroom in the morning and said, "You don't have to go to school today." Okay. Then I did not know why, and he had been told by somebody that something will happen, but he didn't know what. So he went to a teacher of our school who was a Czech citizen and her family, and he stayed there overnight. And the Gestapo came and wanted to arrest my father, but my mother said, "You see, he is not here." So they left again. And unfortunately, I say they did not take them at the time because, excuse me, men were only held there for 2 weeks or so and then sent back. If he would have come back, then he would have wanted to immigrate. He said he had done nothing wrong, nothing will happen to him, but of course he was completely wrong.
Wow. So your family was fairly prominent, with your father being the principal and your mother being a physician. So you did have the means to immigrate to another country, but your father really felt like he hadn't done anything.
And the trouble was he spoke 5 languages, German, French, Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, but not English. And he said, "We did have friends in America who did send us an affidavit of support, which you need to come here. But," he said, "I cannot make a living for my family. I don't speak the language." My mother spoke English perfectly. She had been an au pair for a year in England. But my father did not want to go. He said, like I said, "I've done nothing wrong, nothing will happen to me." He was the first one to die later.
Wow.
It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
It is. So we have a couple of minutes just before the break. When we come back from the break, I want to try to ask Bill a little bit about some things, and then we'll certainly come back. But for the last minute or two, what were some of your earliest memories of the Holocaust?
Well, the first one I remember was being told there is no more kosher meat. And I loved sausages and wurst, you know what wurst is. And that is really the first thing I remember.
Wow. What about the quickness of when the Germans came to take over? Did it seem like it was a long process, or?
Well, like I said, I was very young. I really cannot
Can't
answer
remember.
that.
Yeah. Well, good.
It's just hard to imagine what your parents even had to go through, the decisions they made in terms of shielding you
Yes,
much
and
as
that
they
was
could.
wrong, you know. At that age, you do understand if you're told in a certain way, but they never did.
Well, your story is just fascinating, and I know our viewers are going to stay tuned as we get ready to go to this commercial break. We're all just looking forward to hearing more.
Okay.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000 bucks. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now, Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
Friday session.
We're back up, and so glad you're tuned in. For those of you just joining us, we're here with Miss Esther Bauer and Mr. Bill Engel. And you wanted to start with Bill?
Yeah, well, you know,
Tommy?
I wanted to give Miss Esther a break for just a moment and ask Bill here, Sir Bill Engel. So let's just jump into that. Bill, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was born in Germany, and we immigrated to the United States, my brother and my parents, the four of us, in March 1939. And we worked here. I went to school in the United States also. And when the war broke out in December 7th, 1941, we were declared enemy aliens because we were still German citizens. We were not American citizens. Mm-hmm. So we were declared enemy aliens, but there were really no restrictions, and we were never bothered by anybody. They didn't think that we were going to do any sabotage. Not as what happened on the West Coast with the Japanese people. Mm-hmm. With the Italians and the Germans, who were not citizens, were not bothered in any way. I think once or twice somebody came from the FBI to ask my father some questions because there was another questionable person by the same name, first and last name, but it was somebody else. See? So that was never a problem. And then when I became 18 years of age, I wanted to volunteer, and they told me, no, you cannot volunteer because you are an enemy alien. We can't take you. But I did have to register for the draft. And 6 months later, I was drafted.
You couldn't just enlist, but you could be drafted.
I was in the Army. I went to Fort Bragg in the artillery, got my basic training, and in November, or at the end of October of '43, we were shipped overseas to Africa. And I was still an enemy alien. I was already in Africa in the American Army as an enemy alien. I was not the only one. There were a few others. And so at one time, there was an agent from the State Department who traveled from England through North Africa to India. And he was authorized to make anybody a citizen who was not a citizen of the United States. So I became an African American. I was made a citizen an American citizen in Africa. That phrase at that time didn't exist, but now it does. So and then I went into combat, and at the famous place Monte Cassino. We were there for a while and combat duty, and then we made the push for Rome. I think it was May 15th, 1944. And we went through Rome, which was an open city, and we went as an artillery unit were attached to the French army at that time, and we had the heaviest guns that existed at that time that were in combat, which were 8-inch howitzers, and they didn't want the French to have charge of it, so they had the American troops being attached to the French army. And we went as far as Siena, which is just short of Florence. There we turned around, went back to Naples, and went across the Mediterranean and invaded southern France in style, in Saint-Tropez, which is a famous town, a resort. And we pushed the Germans north. They were running faster than we could keep up with them. And finally in the Jura Mountains, which was right north of where we started out, they made a stand, but we managed to push them away. And we went as far as Mulhouse or Milhausen, which is in Alsace, and there we were just across the Rhine from Germany, and we did fire into Germany from there, but we never invaded Germany from that area because they were getting ready for the big push in the northern part. And then they had the Battle of the Bulge, and we just advanced north in Alsace, Lorraine, and then to Lorraine, went into Germany, crossed the Rhine in Mannheim on a pontoon bridge with all our guns, and fired into a town called Würzburg, and that was the last time we engaged in combat. And then we went towards Munich, and there the war ended. And there was also Dachau, the concentration camp, which I helped liberate. Other than that, we stayed in Germany and slowly moved towards Belgium, Antwerp, which is a harbor. And there we were supposed to go to, getting ready to go to the Pacific. Well, we had enough already. I mean, let's take it easy. But luckily, the bombs were dropped, and that stopped everything. Those two atomic bombs, that stopped everything. So we didn't have to go to Asia, to the Pacific. And I got back home in December 1945 and was discharged. But actually, I was asked to stay in Germany because I spoke German to help govern Germany for a while. I was asked to stay for 1 year, and I said, no, I want to go home. And that was it. Other people that I know stayed for a year.
So you got a letter then. You were back in the U.S. and sometime you got a letter, right, about your sir?
No, this happened the French don't work too fast. This happened 65 years later. In February 2010. I get a telephone call from the French consulate in New York, asking me to come and see them with all my army papers. I didn't know why, but they said, I said, so I made an appointment, I got everything together, I wrote a covering letter also, and and I went there and had an appointment, went there, and this lady who interviewed me at the consulate said, it sounds good to me, I like it, and I approve it, but now it has to go to the French embassy in Washington. They sent all that paperwork to the French embassy in Washington, and they had to approve it, which they did, and then it went to Saint-Cyr in France, which is similar to West Point in the United States. They train the army officers there in that area. And so they had to approve it, which they did, and then it had to go to a commission yet, which I don't know whether it was a civilian commission or was some sort of a military commission. I have no idea, but they had approved it, and they were the last ones to say yes or no, and they said yes. So this was approved. Then I get a telephone call from the consulate again in New York, stating that a letter will follow. And the letter did come, and the letter said, by order of the President of the French Republic, Nicolas Sarkozy, I was appointed a Chevalier. I got the Legion of Honor from the French government, which is similar to the Congressional Medal of Honor. And so I was knighted, and I'm a Chevalier now, which means nothing actually, because the only thing it allows me to do is ride the subways for free in Paris.
But you're in good company because...
Oh, yes. This medal was established by Napoleon in 1802, and it's not only given to military personnel, but also to civilians who did something big for France, I guess, for France, and they also can get it. It's not just like the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is just for military engagements or work, but it's also for civilians. So in 1802, this was established. In 1804, Napoleon personally gave that medal to the German poet Goethe, and he says, "Voilà un homme, here is a man." And in 1807, he gave that medal to Tsar Alexander I of Russia, and then many other people, of course, got that in the meantime. But the last ones I know who got it was General MacArthur. He got that medal, and also President Eisenhower. He also got the same medal. So I'm in the same company.
Yeah, very much so. And you served. I mean, your service.
I was made what they called Légion d'honneur, the Legion of Honor, and I'm a Chevalier. Which in English means you're a knight.
I think this month being the month that we celebrate veterans here in the United States, you know, that's just an amazing honor, and your service is
Yes, they appreciate what I did, but it took them 65 years to figure this out. And by the way, what we call Veterans Day now is called Armistice Day, Le Jour d'Armistice in France, and this is the day I was awarded that medal in 2010 on November 11th.
Oh, nice.
Of 2010.
Very special.
At a school in New York, which is called Lycée Français. It's a French high school in New York City, and in their auditorium it was given.
Very nice.
I was one of 18 who got it at that time.
Okay.
And many people who got it also were they from Normandy. They jumped into the rear of the German army. There were some there, but I was the only one who was able to walk by myself without a cane. Everybody else either had a cane or a walker or a wheelchair.
Very nice. Now, your memory is quite crisp. You know, you're blessed to still have use of your body and to be able to walk without the aid of the walker and the cane and all that. But your memory and your mind with all those battles is just impressive.
So we've got about another 2 minutes before we're going to take another break. Are there any memories that you have that you were thinking about from the Holocaust perspective while you were...
Well, actually, I am a survivor also, but I'm also a liberator, both, because I was still out there in Germany at the time of when they destroyed all the synagogues, Kristallnacht. I was still there, so and that's when they say the Holocaust started on that day. That was the official beginning of the Holocaust, and that's why it's recognized today. And so I was still there, so I'm a survivor of that part, But then a few months later, we immigrated to the United States. So, and then when I was drafted in the Army, so I'm a survivor and a liberator, both.
Very nice.
As a liberator, what's something that you remember that you can't shake or get rid of?
Well, I'm trying to not think about it, but it was not easy. As General Sherman said, war is hell. He was only half right. It's worse than that. Once you're in there, actual combat, it's no way to describe it. What you see and what happens.
Well, you want to take a break and we come back and do this again?
I think we're getting close to needing to get ready for that break. And for our guests watching, we hope that you won't touch your dials, because this is just a piece of history, an important piece. It's not the happiest, some portions of it, but it had a good outcome in some ways in terms of the history and the just something for all of us to know and respect and to think about.
I'm sorry. Not only did Hitler kill 6 million Jews, I mean not he himself alone, but he also killed 5 million others who were not Jewish. And these are not anything connected with combat, with war. These are just other civilians, which didn't agree with him. See, so he killed them off too. There were 5 million others. I mean, Christians and Muslims and whatever whoever was in his way. And that also included a lot of people who were disabled, mentally or physically. He just said those were a drag on the economy. We don't need them, so let's get rid of them.
Wow.
And they were mostly non-Jews, those people.
So when we come back, that's probably a great place for us to pick up on. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't touch your dials. We'll be right back.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now. Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
Well, good morning, and thanks for staying with us here on Tennessee Valley This Morning. I'm Tracey Wright, and I'm joined by Tommy Wright, my co-host, And we have two heroes and survivors and inspirations joining us today. Miss Esther Bauer
and Bill Engel.
And they've just been sharing history today. And if you've missed some portions, you know, I hope you'll have the opportunity at some point to hear the full story, but we'll do as much as we can to keep going with some of those fascinating historical pieces of the world history. And when we, right before we left for the break, Mr. Bill, you were talking about Hitler and just the way that he was able to annihilate lots of groups of people. And it wasn't just about the military battles and people who were in combat, but civilians. With that in mind, who would each of you say you hold and think is most responsible for the Holocaust and what happened there?
Well, Hitler, I would say, sure.
Hitler and his co-hosts, collaborators.
Yeah.
Not hosts, but collaborators.
He was quite masterful.
Oh yeah.
At the way he carried out his plan.
He had a good propaganda machine. That was important. That was important to him, to convince people of things which ordinarily nobody even think of.
Do you follow world leaders today that in any way trouble you when you see what you see today?
Sure.
Certainly.
Any correlations?
Like Iran.
Yes.
They are, in my opinion, the worst.
Or even Syria.
Syria.
And what happens in the Congo.
Right.
And what happened in Kosovo a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's never ending, because people hate each other instead of loving each other. Because they always think they're superior to somebody else.
And with the propaganda that Hitler was able to deliver so effectively, it's just hard, I guess, looking back, all the different signs that people missed. But it seems like maybe even within households, as families were trying to protect their families, a part of that was keeping information and keeping some of what was going on away.
Well, like Bill said, the propaganda was terrific, and if you get told 100 times Jews have horns and they are terrible people, people start to believe it, and that's what happened.
What kept you going during the Holocaust? Was there just your mental capacity to see?
Well, I once had to see a psychiatrist in New York. It was many years later. The first question he asked me was, do you feel guilty that you were liberated and 6 million were killed? I said, no, I'm one of 1,000 women and many are still alive. None of us was killed, but people died, of course, of sicknesses. And that floored him already, because he had patients who had this guilt complex, including my second husband, who came to America in 1936, and he felt guilty that he was not in a concentration camp. But then the second question was, do you think you need therapy? And I said, I don't want to sound like all crazy people. If you think I need therapy, I will take it. But I don't think I need it. He said, I agree with you, but I want to tell you something. You live in a shell, you let nothing touch you, and that's how you survived.
That's deep. Interesting. How are you as a survivor dealing with the deniers of today?
Well, luckily I've never met one, I would probably punch him in the nose.
I believe you would.
You could, if somebody would and could.
But I can only tell what happened to me, and everything is true. And
They're liars.
There are always
They are liars.
there are always people who
deny that.
who deny.
And as Napoleon said, history is who writes it.
That's true.
That's true.
No, very true.
Yeah.
That's what Napoleon said.
What about world leaders that tried to stop the Holocaust? Do you think they were more apathetic, or could this have been stopped?
I'm sure it could have been, but
They
who
could have
was it? The English.
They could have bombed the railroad tracks going into the concentration camp.
Yeah,
they could have done that, but they never bothered. They bombed everything else, but they never bombed things like that.
Right.
Because, in a way, secretly or subconsciously, they were collaborating as far as exterminating Jews is concerned.
That whole guilt by
They should have a
commission and
complex.
omission. And
Yeah.
But those people are dead now.
Yeah.
Well, I know Miss Esther and Mr. Bill, you both just gotten back from some travels to Europe. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing there, and because I know part of your trip, Miss Esther, took you back to your hometown.
Oh yeah, well I go back to my hometown all the time. It was the remembrance of
75 years.
Crystal Night, the 9th of November 1938, and it was now 75 years after. And there was a, what should I say, Mahnwache, I don't know.
Memorial services.
Yeah,
Outdoors.
Outdoors, and on the place where the synagogue stood was a beautiful, beautiful synagogue, the largest and most beautiful in northern Germany. And in 1938 they burned it. And one of my teachers went into the burning synagogue and carried out a Torah scroll, and it is now in a museum in New York City. And well, like I said, my father wasn't there when they wanted to arrest him, but many other men were taken to concentration camps, but only for a short while. And well, it was a terrible, terrible day. Again, I was never told what was going on, but I had to find out from other people. And after that, all my classmates immigrated. We were 42 pupils in the 9th grade, and at the end of 1939, we were only 3, and I was one of the 3, and the 2 others were killed in Auschwitz.
You mentioned something last night when we were leaving from dinner that made me think that you probably have had many thoughts in the past, but you were mentioning that where you and Bill stay now, that sometimes people complain of the food.
Oh yeah, well,
but
we live
people
in,
have nothing to complain about if they have lived your life.
Well, when I came to America, my first thought was, people have it too good here. They don't know what it is to be hungry, and we were terribly, terribly hungry. And where we live now, it's a senior residence, and we get breakfast and dinner every day, and the food is wonderful. And even if it isn't so good, you eat it or you leave it. But there are people who constantly complain. The soup is too hot, the soup is too cold, the meat is too tough. Everything they complain about, and that really gets me mad.
As you said, they haven't had to eat grass.
Right, grass, exactly.
So,
Well, I built airplanes for 9 months in a small town called Freiburg in Saxony. It's near the city of Dresden, which was heavily bombed during the war. And we worked 12 hours a day from 12 noon to midnight, or from midnight to 12 noon. It was 24-hour work, 6 days a week. Sundays we were off. And we had an SS man in charge who beat us with his leather belt whenever he could catch us. We had to go every hour to get the rivets out of the steam at that time, today it's all different. One girl had an air hammer and one girl had a piece of iron, and you put the rivet in there and you close it this way. And the only act of sabotage I was able to do was to make the rivets too short or too long. They couldn't catch me because the whole thing was closed at the end. And well, it was, and we were so terribly hungry. We got one piece of bread in the morning, a cup of ersatz coffee that was made out of some grain, and this one piece of bread had to last you all day. And then we got a watery soup for lunch and a watery soup for dinner. And we were so hungry, we ate the grass whenever we could. They built us barracks later out of the factory, and when we walked in the morning, we grabbed the grass and ate it. And you cannot imagine how poor you can be. I had one pair of underpants, a summer dress, a thin coat, shaved of hair from Auschwitz, and nothing on the head, no gloves, no socks, wooden shoes, no stockings, no handkerchief, no soap, no toothbrush, no toothpaste, nothing. And we lived like that for 9 months.
Wow.
No toilet paper.
Wow.
Just like you said.
Not even toilet paper.
And no
Yeah.
toilet paper, right.
Nothing.
We don't know how good we have it.
Right.
We really
right.
don't.
That's exactly right.
Well, it's going to be time for us to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have maybe about 10 minutes left, and we'll try to close it all up as best we can. This could go on for days, and we have so much to talk about, but we'll close it up for now, and then we'll come back and finish up and do some final thoughts in just a minute. So.
Okay.
So watch these wonderful announcements during our commercial break.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Lefford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
Good morning, and we're so glad that you are still with us this morning. We're Tracey Wright and Tommy Wright, and we're joined this morning by two just phenomenal individuals.
We are. So we have about 8.5 minutes left, but I wanted to kind of catch a couple of other questions. But what kind of education could be improved related to the Holocaust? What could be done in schools to improve?
Well, schools should teach the Holocaust. I don't know how much the teachers know, that's also a problem. Mm-hmm. But I try to speak in wherever I can in any class and tell the children or students what happened, and they're always amazed because they didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have recommendations on books or movies that you say are really good and well
I
done?
try not to read them, or there is one book called The Boy in the Striped Pajama. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard that one.
It's a fairy tale, but it's very good. And of course, Schindler's List. Mm-hmm. I did not have a Schindler. But I wanted to tell you, the minute I got into the first camp, Theresienstadt, or Terezin, we walked by the kitchen, and there stood a young man. I was 18 years old, and I knew he would come after me. Now, everybody there was Jewish. And he comes, he doesn't speak a word of German. I don't speak a word of Czech, of course. And he got somebody else to interpret for us, and I made up my mind to learn the language, which I did later. Anyway, this man saved my life. We were together for 2 years, and but men and women were strictly separated. So I have to go back to Hamburg. Jewish doctors were not allowed to work as doctors anymore. So my mother, who was a physician, could only take care of patients at night. She could not work as a doctor, but in Terezin they made her a doctor again. But she had a small room where she tried to help people, but she had hardly any medicine. And I got very sick with double pneumonia and high fever, and my newfound friend Honza was able to get me into a room where the doctor did have medicine, and I was already better, and I got sick again with high fever, and he ran through the whole town, which he wasn't allowed to at that time, but he took a chance, found the doctor, brought her back, and she gave me an injection and said if she would have come 2 hours later, I probably wouldn't be alive anymore. Mm-hmm. So I owe this man my life. We decided to get married when he got the order to be in a transport to build up a new ghetto near Dresden. He left. I mean, we got married, he left, and a week later or so, the women of these men were told, you can go voluntarily after your husband. And I'm one of the few women who went voluntarily to Auschwitz, because we never saw Dresden. We went to Auschwitz. Mm-hmm. And Auschwitz, of course, was the most horrible place I've ever seen. It's hard to explain in a few words. There was this Dr. Mengele, you go right, you go left. Anyway, we go into the shower. No, and first we walked by a barrack, and women came out and yelled, please throw us the bread over that you have left. They will take it away from you. And the girl next to me threw it over and was shot right next to me. Mm. And I knew then this is not a good place. So we go into the shower, and we knew about Auschwitz, but water came and not gas. And after 2 weeks, again, we had to go into the shower, and we thought this would be the end, because at night they drove the people in trucks by our barrack, and they screamed. They knew where they were going. And we go into the shower, and well, we said goodbye to each other, but water came, and we were sent to Freiburg in Saxony to build airplanes.
Wow.
So
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And so were you ever, you weren't reunited with your husband?
My husband was killed. He never got out of Auschwitz.
That is something. I mean, just not knowing when you go into the shower if it's going to be water, the gas, and what that does to a person.
Terrible, terrible.
So we have only like 2 minutes left, so a big thing here, but what are the most important things that we could do to make sure that nowhere in this world a Holocaust never happens?
Well, like I always tell the students, you have to see to it that this never happens again, because maybe one of your students will be president one day, and well, when you have people applying to be president, see what they say and think what might happen. It's very important that you do this.
Mr. Bill, you have any closing thoughts for us?
All I can say is that people should love each other.
Yes.
That's it. Otherwise, there's no future for the whole world.
That's so true.
Sure,
no matter what country or what continent, they gotta love each other. Otherwise...
Exactly. You should be friends with everybody, and it works. I've seen it in Israel, that Israelis and Arabs were very good friends, but it's always from upstairs they say, you cannot do this, you have to hate each other. That is a terrible, terrible thing.
We've had a history lesson today.
We definitely have, and a message of hope and inspiration.
We have. Well, I think we're going to see this show maybe repeated on the station a couple times. So if folks haven't been able to see it today and they see it again or see a part of it, I think if they would like to see it show up again.
We would just like to thank Ms. Esther and Mr. Bill for just your time this morning, being
Our
here.
pleasure.
And for just the inspiration that you are. Y'all are special people, and I know you have become very special to my family. I'm blessed. Miss Esther adopted our daughter as her granddaughter the last visit, and so the two have a very special bond. And we are hopeful that this will not be her last visit, that she'll come back to Cleveland again, the two of them, and when they're in Cleveland, we have to have them on the show, don't we?
That's right.
So with
as long as we can do it, we will do it.
All right. Well, you heard it here, and it's in the media.
That's right.
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Well, we're going to encourage you to tune in to tomorrow's edition of Tennessee Valley This Morning, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. It's nice to be able to kick us off this week. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Tennessee Valley This Morning.